Welcome in the Kick in the Rear podcast, where I dive into the real estate investment review. My name is Joe Yarshin. Today on episode 6, we're going to be reviewing the book on investing in real estate with No and Low Money Down by Mr. Brandon Turner. This is a series. There's about 3 of these in his book series. And this is probably my favorite one of the 3. We do have a third one coming out, but this one specifically tackles all the creative strategies for investing in real estate using other people's money or very little of your own. Probably the biggest reason people don't get into real estate investing, or at least the biggest excuse for not getting in, is that people say they have no money to do it. So this book definitely removes all excuses and gets you to use your brain and basically gives you the roadmap to how to do it in a effective way that is unconventional, but seems to work for him and his empire. So if he can do it, certainly anyone can. And without further ado, let's get into it. In chapter 1, Brandon Turner discusses the 4 rules of creative investing. His 4 rules are: rule number 1, when investing creatively, you need to find an even better deal than those who invest normally. So immediately you have to target deals under the normal market purchase price. Rule number 2, when investing creatively, you must be extremely conservative. He means with the numbers, he means with the expectations, he means with the overall investment picture when you're evaluating the properties. Rule number 3, creative finance requires sacrifice. Again, when you don't have a lot of money to use down, you do have to get creative, and being creative requires sacrifice, whether that's your time, it could be your money, and certainly it could be paying higher interest rates. It could be a lot of different things. He goes into specifics of that later in the book. Rule number 4, creative finance does not mean investing without a cushion. So a lot of people would interpret the premise of this book as investing with no and low money down, which is correct, but it also means having a backup plan for when the things do go wrong. So in the first chapter, he really just goes into high level overview of what to expect, introduction, just like any other investing book that Brandon would do. And in chapter 2, first he talks about owner occupied investment properties, what that means. Straight away, he explains what owner occupied single family homes are. And he discusses owner-occupied multifamily homes, kind of the difference between these two and which is better for your unique situation. Sometimes he alludes to, should you even buy a home at all? And then that gets into some other ideas of how you can do it using government programs, FHA insured loans. So he goes into the specifics of those programs, kind of the drawbacks, the risks of using an FHA loan. I myself, my wife and I, our first home purchase was an FHA loan. And then when we refinanced, we did a more conventional loan. So I think it can be great for first-time home buyers, but it's not only for your first home. You can only just have one primary occupied residence under at a time. So he goes into the summary of what an FHA loan is. My favorite part of this chapter, he discusses the 203K loan, and that's something my institution has and a lot of other banks have. And maybe I wasn't as aware of it on the front end. And then I started digging into it. It's a really cool program. Page 42, he discusses some examples of how to use this type of loan. And I think that if you're in a medium income level area where you might be around that level of median income, this can be a really great way to purchase a home and finance the repairs. There's there's two different kinds of 203K loans. He discusses the 203K and the 203K streamline. He goes into the risks and drawbacks of this program, but I like to think that there was really the only drawback for me was that it's just hard to get approved. But beyond that, I think it's still a great option for people getting in real estate investing using your primary residence. It discusses the VA loans, USDA loans, and the USDA loan specifics. So one of those things I highlighted here was that that USDA loan type is 100% loan financing, no monthly private mortgage insurance or MIP, no maximum purchase price. Certain repairs or upgrades can be financed into the loan, and then the seller can pay up to 6% toward the buyer's closing costs. So that's a really nice perk of that program. He gives a website link here just to check out on page 48. And then again, he goes into the risks and drawbacks of that program. Personally, I think it's really great that there are these government programs. And yeah, I really like that chapter a lot. Just opened my eyes up to a number of opportunities that if you're in maybe a more rural area or an area that's not super densely populated, or the income's very, could be an opportunity to buy some land with a home with some updates. Just looks really promising as an option. In chapter 3, Brandon discusses partnerships. I know on the Bigger Pockets podcast, David Green, he always talks about, he works with a lot of people, but he prefers to do a lot of his own portfolio on his own. And then I think that that's good to partner with people if you want a piece of the pie, but certainly if you want your own portfolio, you got to use some of this creative financing, at least early on, if you don't have a ton of capital. He discusses building your brand and your reputation, the knowledge, your experience, what your product looks like, how it'll help you succeed building your brand. And then he talks about the different types of partnership strategies. So he has full equity partnerships, down payment equity partnerships, private lending partnerships, and then credit partnerships. So some of these terms I hadn't heard in those words before. And then when he explained it, it kind of made more sense. But he goes into some of the dangers and pitfalls of using partners. Using partners can be difficult, but sometimes if you don't have the capacity to do business deals, having a partner can help you open up your world to doing the deal. So I think it could be good, but he says specifically why it wouldn't be good: personality conflicts, differences of opinion, trust and suspicion issues, delayed decision-making because you can't do everything on your own, autonomy. You have to rely on other people to agree with you. Smaller profit margin. It can hurt relationships, mixing business and friendship. Sometimes unrealistic expectations happen when you have a partner, different legal responsibilities for the partner, and then the taxation. The taxes become more complicated. So I definitely can see why he doesn't like it, but at the same time, I think it's important that he talks about the pros and cons. So in chapter 4, I have a lot of experience with this. He talks about home equity loans, home equity lines of credit. When I was in the retail banking space, I like to think that I was the home equity line of credit champion. I definitely was at the top of the leaderboard in sales for that. It really helped me in my career catapult to the highest level and earned me a trip to President's Circle, in part to the sales, but it also gave me a lot of networking opportunities to talk to people that own properties, people that own their businesses. And I learned a lot from discussing home equity lines of credit with people and discussing their primary residences as well as their other properties. So in this chapter, Brandon discusses what a home equity loan is, what a home equity line of credit is, how do you get one, how can you calculate your lendable equity. what fair market value minus your total mortgages, that's your equity. Loan to value, he uses a lot of good banking terms here that you might not hear in the day-to-day conversations you have with people, but if you talk to anyone in real estate investing or business or banking, these terms are very common. And he gives a lot of anecdotal, personal experience, but then he uses case studies to discuss some of these products and how they can help you expand your portfolio. So I kind of like how he discusses that. And I like that he still addresses the risks and drawbacks of using home equity, because even though it does open up your world significantly, it's not without risk. It's not without downside. And one of the most important ones he discusses of a downside potentially, it could also be upside, not upside, but is over leveraging, less cash flow, adjustable rates. So those are things to keep in mind. Chapter 5. So strategies for using hard money. I'd like to personally talk about this really quickly because recently I've identified some hard money lenders in both in my area and in the Midwest, and people that lend into other states. I think that people just starting out can use hard money, and I think that even experienced people can use hard money. It has its purpose. It is higher interest rates, but it's a lot less restrictive than going through a big bank for the investing side of it. If you're doing a primary residence, you still want to go through a primary bank. You still want to go through a mortgage lender, in my opinion. But if you are looking for alternative sources of capital and you know what you're doing, or at least you have a rudimentary baseline of investing knowledge, I think that hard money lenders can be a great option. And so somebody I've been working with recently, she told me, hey, if you ever want to send me deals, I'll evaluate them and, give you my opinion on them and then help you with the due diligence. So it's great to do your own due diligence. It's even better to bounce ideas off of somebody who's experienced, and somebody in the lending space, it doesn't hurt to have another pair of eyes on it. So I think that hard money lenders, if they're reputable and they're good, they're going to look out for you too, because they don't, they want repeat business. They don't want you to default. They want you to succeed in your purchase, in your flips, in your long-term buy and holds. They want you to BRRRR your property successfully. So he kind of talks about what hard money is. How do I find a hard money lender? If you go on a BiggerPockets hard money lenders directory, there's a great resource there. And you can find just about anything on that BiggerPockets blogs and resources. Their website's very, very comprehensive. And again, just talking about how the hard money works, and can a buy and hold investor use hard money? So he talks about that. What restrictions these hard money lenders might have. Drawbacks. There's a lot of drawbacks. It's expensive, for one. You can't necessarily sell right away. Just depends. Can't always refinance the full amount. Sometimes you can't refinance at all. So thought that was a really good section. Kind of opened my eyes up to some other opportunities in my own investing portfolio career. Recently, I've met with a double close wholesaler, which we'll get into in the next few chapters here. But chapter 6, Brandon Turner discusses raising private money to fund the deals. So kind of discusses what is private money. Again, I hate to always bring up BiggerPockets podcast, but they're super helpful in discussing what private money is. They have a 3 or 4 part segment that they just finished up in the last few weeks. And their guest speaker does a really awesome masterclass on how to use private money and how to utilize those relationships and how to leverage them. So discussing in this chapter who the private lenders are, how to find them, family and friends, networking. He discusses going to Chamber of Commerce meetings. I don't know if that's necessary, but I think it doesn't hurt. I discussed that with other colleagues, and some people agree that it's good and some don't think it's good. So it just depends on who you talk to, but I think really it's just meeting the right people at the right time. And do you have something of value to offer them? If so, they're probably more likely to work with you. You can, utilize blogging, public records. They talk about like this elevator pitch, which kind of ties into the 4-second power pitch I heard on the Bigger Pockets podcast with their raising private money lender. Check that out. Super awesome segment. And then meeting with the potential lenders, like what to ask them, kind of how to prepare for those meetings, how to overcome objections, how to reassure and sound professional in those meetings, getting them to commit, and structuring the loans, interviews. It's great information. Page 100 has a really great blurb about that specifically. He talks about how do you utilize the private money, what kind of security do you offer your lenders? What kind of legal entity do you use? How can you describe your money raising process? Really just goes into everything here. So moving on, a lot of these questions you can ask these private money lenders are really great. The next part of this chapter, he talks about legal issues with raising money. So there is a ton of information on this, and I won't get into all of it, but basically there are some rules and regulations about using and raising money. So qualified investors, accredited investors, things in that nature. Very commonly discussed on a number of the podcasts I listen to, but certainly there are risks and drawbacks to using private money. So he kind of discusses those as well on page 115. In chapter 17, he reviews the lease options. So what is a lease option? The two sides of a lease option, why you would use them, and owner, seller, lesser benefits of the option, tenant buyer benefits. No money down investing with a lease option. So you can do like a straight lease option. He discusses a straight lease option lessee. So there's several case studies in here again and examples of what people have done. Page 125 I have circled. He talks about this person, Micah Grafsgard, is a real estate agent in Honolulu, Hawaii. Check out that blurb. Really awesome. This one's cool. It's a lease option sandwich. So you can kind of layer some of these creative options together. And then again, just talking about the drawbacks of using these tips and best practices for utilizing the lease option sandwich, master lease options. Page 132, I highlighted this one because he says another risk of this lease option is the due on sale clause. So probably you might have heard of this before. So here's a description of what it is on this page of 132, but there's so many things you got to be aware of. So he kind of just goes into that again. So that chapter is over. Chapter 8, we have seller financing. This is a great, very great section. So page 136 goes into what it is, what the problems are, why you should use it, examples of using seller finance deals, case studies, partial seller financing, risks and drawbacks again. you have to really buy good deals when you're doing this, but if you meet the right person at the right time for tax purposes for them, normally they might want to do that. They might want to do seller financing for a lot of reasons, but taxation and maybe avoiding capital gains all at once, something I've heard people do. Chapter 9, real estate wholesaling, really got me interested in this. A lot of the podcasts review what wholesalers do, but this is kind of a high-level overview. Examples of the deals, how you can do it, and how you can market the deals. There's a lot of time and effort involved. Driving for dollars, direct mailing, SEO tools to your website, online marketing, using signs. You can use the MLS. Craigslist is a big one, he says, empowering others to help you. So it can be a job. It can be an investment. Just depends on what you do. How much money you can make off of the wholesaling depends on, again, your level of commitment, effort, time, money. So he discusses the after repair value. So this is a big terminology word in real estate investing. When you're doing a hard money deal, they're going to look at the after repair value. When you're burring a property, they're going to look at the after repair value. So he discusses how to find comps, talks about the 70% rule. So maximum allowable offer equals after repair value times 70% minus repairs minus your fee. Issues with the 70% rule, the fixed cost method, which is the after repair value minus your fixed cost minus the investor's profit minus wholesale fee minus rehab costs equals the maximum allowable offer for a deal. Which method should you use? He goes into why and which one. Estimating rehab costs. That's going to be one of the books I review next. He discusses that by Jay Scott. So that's going to be a preview that's coming up, and I look forward to reading that one to learn how to do that more effectively. So difficulties, again, with being a wholesaler, making your offer, negotiating with sellers. He goes into step-by-step of the process. So you're going to be looking at finding and working with cash buyers. It's a really niche thing. And that's why I recommend partnering with places that are professional that do this for a living. But if you're trying to do it, I think you have to just be dedicated to it. It's not like a part-time thing, in my opinion, based on what I've read. It just seems like you have to be very dedicated to being a wholesaler. So legally putting the deal together, he reviews what that looks like. And then, getting paid at the end is the end result. In chapter 10, he discusses syndication, which if you follow Brandon Turner on social media, he discusses a lot of the deals that he syndicates where he's a general partner. He has limited partners. I think that's he's a master of that. So he raises a ton of money and works with a ton of people and gets really big accomplishments complete in the real estate space using the syndication model. So at the end of the book, he has creative combinations that you can do. So the first one, he says you can partner with somebody and then use hard money to refinance. Example 2, you can use the master lease option to partial seller financing. Step 3, or example 3, you can use the 203K loan, cash out refi, and then do a partnership flip. And then at the very end, in the bonus chapter, he just lists some inspiration, again, using some case studies of what people have done. And I think that that's really great overall. I loved this book. This is one of the more creative real estate books I've read. It removes all excuses from not being able to do the work. If you know how to do something, great, but if you know who to help you with it, even better. And utilizing these steps and methods, I think it makes it impossible for anyone not to at least have a chance at closing a deal. So I think I'm going to use a lot of these concepts, but in a creative combination. And I think that this is a good read. I think that this is definitely a 10 out of 10. This is better than his other investing real estate book. This was my favorite of the series so far. So thank you so much again for listening in. I would like to, on a positive light note, say how much fun this is again for me. And next week, I have a special episode of the podcast. I'm going to be introducing my first guest, and I'm really excited to have my first interview on the podcast. And I think that in conjunction with the book reviews, it's going to be a more comprehensive experience for listeners. And as the show grows and develops and my skill sets increase, the knowledge increases, I think that it's going to be a great source of information for people. And if I have to specialize in the Tennessee market, I will, but certainly I will discuss everything I know in a broad sense and on the micro level as well. Again, bippity boppity investment property. Have a great day. Look forward to next week. Let's go.